Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is NURZAHIDAH IZZATI binti RAMLI. My student ID is 2021822792. And today I'll be gonna present our legal magazine topic, which is necessity is to be assessed and treated proportionally.
My name is ISMALIZA binti YUSOFF. My matrix number is 2021461664. Today I will present about methods of necessity is to be treated and assessed proportionally, and the application in fiqh.
So first of all, I'm gonna talk about the introduction. So basically, Al-Qawaid Al-Fiqhiyah is often known as fiqh or legal magazine of Islamic law, which is a branch of Islamic science that focuses on general fiqh rules that can be applied to a wide range of specific circumstances. This semester lessons include a number of maxims, which is including necessity does not trump another person's right, certainty is not twisted by doubts, matters are determined by intention, do not harm and do not let no harm come to you. And in this topic, our presentation, we will gonna talk about the necessity is to be assessed and treated proportionally. Next, I'm gonna talk about finding and discussion. In this topic, I'm gonna talk about 5 points, which is the first one is definition, the second one is authority of the maxim, the third one the obligation of the maxims, the fourth one evidence in Quran, and the last one is method. Okay, for the definition, the legal maxim's necessity is to be treated according to its magnitude means that when a situation of necessity arises, the actions taken in response must be proportionate to the seriousness and urgency of the situation, mengikut kadar yang sesuai, mengikut kadar situasi yang sesuai. To put it another way, the severity of the harm that the necessary action will avert must be evaluated against the harm that the action will actually create. Next is authority of the maxims. There are a number of Quranic verses which form the legal basis for these maxims, including وَمَا جَعَلَ عَلَيْكُمْ فِي الدِّينِ مِنْ حَرَجٍ. He has placed no hardship upon you in your religion. The second one, يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ بِكُمُ الْيُسْرَ وَلَا يُرِيدُ بِكُمُ الْعُسْرَ. Allah wants ease for you, not hardship. And the last one is لَا يُكَلِّفُ اللَّهُ نَفْسًا إِلَّا وُسْعَهَا. Allah does not burden any soul with more than it can bear. In addition to this and other verses, a number of hadiths also indicate that Allah wants ease for His servant and hence allow various facility for them in every aspect of their life. After that, the obligation of the maxims. In legal context, the maxim's obligation is to guarantee that choices made in times of emergency are proportional, reasonable, and do not go beyond what is required to solve the issue. For example, if a government mentions the principle of necessity to restrict its citizens' freedom of movement during a pandemic, the maxims require that the restrictions be proportional to the scale of the public health danger and not be more restrictive than required. And the last point is evidence in Quran. In the Al-Quran, there are several verses that emphasize the importance of assessing and treating matters proportionally. A few examples from Quran verse from Surah Al-An'am, and do not approach the orphan's property except in a way that is best until he reach maturity. This verse highlights the importance of giving full measure in justice. It emphasizes the need to treat others fairly and proportionally without exceed their capacity or taking advantage of them. Okay, the next one is from Surah Al-Ma'idah. O you who have believed, be persistently standing firm for Allah, witness injustice, and do not let the hatred of a people prevent you from being just near to rightness, and fear Allah. Indeed, Allah is acquainted with what you do. This verse encourages believers to be just and fair in their dealing, even they have negative feeling or bias toward a particular group of people. It emphasizes the importance of assessing matters objectively and treating them proportionally, regardless of personal inclination. And the last evidence that I found in Quran from Surah Al-Baqarah, and do not consume one another wealth unjustly or send it in bribery to the ruler in order they might aid you to consume a portion of the wealth of the people in sin, while you know it is unlawful. This verse against unjust consumption of wealth and the use of bribery, raswah, to obtain favor. It underscores the principle of proportionality, highlight that it unjust to take more than what is right, do or to exploit others for personal gain.
The first method is what is permissible because of the harm measured by the degree of harm. Someone is given relief for eating food that Sharia prohibits in order to prevent someone from starving to death in such a difficult situation, but the individual is still not allowed to eat more than the rate appropriate and necessary because something that is required to be done in order to eliminate harm must be measured by the rate appropriate. The situation has actually required a person to be pragmatic, which means evaluating a situation based on reality and circumstances. In this case, the individual is confronted with the reality of hunger, which, if untreated, can lead to death. So, illegal food consumption is permitted in the appropriate amount, which cannot exceed the amount required to eliminate hunger. Second method is what permitted due to emergency or desire is measured according to its rate and its disappearance with the disappearance of the emergency. In regard to issue that there are a pillar of life, Allah SWT teach the concept of an emergency. And the verse of the Quran were even revealed to Rasulullah SAW by Allah SWT as a guide for people in general regardless of religion. If you can see in Surah Al-Baqarah in verse 172 to 173. Although Allah SWT comments strictly requires eating from halal source, there is an emergency and there is no halal food. As a result, Islam permits eating haram food in moderation. This is due to an emergency and food becomes critical to survival. When the state of darurat ends, when the state of emergency ends, then the darurat also ends. The state of darurat is confined to a single instant and is not continuous or prolonged. The law realization on that person ends when the state of emergency does. An illustration: if someone misses their morning prayer because of an urgent situation that threatens their life, they are still required to pray as soon as the emergency passes, and it is still done. He must still offer his morning prayer at the time, even if the emergency situation ends during the day. And it also, a person can eat pork, which is pork meat, to survive if that time there is no food except that pork. Method is the hook established in response to an emergency is calculated based on its rate. Darurat does not invalidate the entire Sharia law. Facing an darurat situation is only limited to the situation he is facing, and the realization of Islamic law is only subject to the situation. For a person who is starving for several days, the law of darurat allow him to eat non-halal food, but does not allow him to evident prayer or other activities. Apart from that, Islam also provides facilities for its people to perform worship when they are in an darurat, which the existence of rukhsah as a solution. Um, Rukhsah is a religious legal facility that is available when a person face a particular situation, whether that situation causes difficulties or does not cause difficulties for him. In fact, this legal facility is good to practice for person who is in his situation. This facility is available as an option to make it easier for Muslims to perform one act of worship, a sign of mercy of Allah SWT and the ease of his religion. For example, for solat, contoh kan, kalau kita naik bas dalam perjalanan yang jauh ataupun kita bermusafir, kita boleh solat jamak untuk certain waktu solat. Contohnya kita boleh solat jamak asar dan zuhur, maghrib dan isyak. Application of necessity is to be assessed and treated professionally in fiqh. The concept of necessity is to be assessed and treated professionally. Al-darura tuqaddaru biqadriha is widely applied in daily life to overcome problems related to rulings, jurisprudence, worship, and other things done by a Muslim. This concept is also applied in medical industry. Aspect of darura and hajah exists during the handling of birth, and it depends on the condition of the woman and the child she is pregnant with. These two aspects are classified based on two conditions, which is during childbirth and before and after, which is postpartum. In the first case, a woman placed in a darura situation because giving birth is a critical moment due to the pain she is experiencing, while also wanting to ensure the child is born safely. So any procedure done when this is a must is as follows. Inserting a finger into the vagina to ensure the size of the cervical opening and looking at the vagina to see the progress of the birth process. Next, there are several situations in which a doctor duties as a doctor must be performed in order to save the mother's life. For example, if there are signs of a slow birth and the mother is unable to strain again, a perineal incision procedure may be performed to make it easier to get the head out quickly and save the child from drowning, which can be fatal. This is evidence of the goal of ensuring a safe birth while also detecting any abnormalities in the process. As a result, it is permissible to see and touch a woman's private part, including her vagina, due medical necessity. And next is a reference and guide in answering the current issues. As we all know, Islam has provided evidence and religious method that can be used to explain issues relating to changes in worship or muamalat. For example, during the COVID-19 pandemic, al-darurah tuqaddar biqadriha is used to justify the post-mortem of worship practice such as congregational prayers, Friday prayers, Aidilfitri and Aidiladha prayers. Regarding the post-mortem of Friday prayers, referring to the fatwa and decision of mufti and scholar worldwide, although the law is mandatory for those who meet the 7 conditions, which is are Muslim, of poverty, of good sense, completely free, male, and in good physical health. The situation during the spread of COVID-19 pandemic caused the law to change non-mandatory. This is based on the opinion of the existing MOHD, who hold that it is prohibited for anyone who is affected or suspected to be infected with the virus to be in a public place or to go to a mosque to participate in Friday prayers, Congress prayers, and Eid prayers. All preventative measure must be taken too.
Okay, now I'm gonna talk about the applications. Necessity is to be assessed and treated proportionally in finance. The first application is a permissible rationale for depart from usual norms concerning interest and riba. Um, for example, if a person is in dire or like desperate for a financial assistance, they may be permitted to enter into a transaction involving a higher rate of return that will be permitted under regular conditions. The idea of needs come into play in this case. Individual may be granted deviation to the standard norms in severe circumstances, but according to the Islamic finance, in order to address their urgent requirement, the individual could approach Islamic financial institution such as Islamic microfinance provider because they can provide alternative financial options. Understanding the personal urgent circumstances, the Islamic microfinance provider may build a transaction that includes profit sharing or greater rate of return. This arrangement allows the individual to obtain the money needed without infringing the interest limitation. This notion is based on Islamic concept which is mudarabah, which allow a person to invest money with another person or entity in exchange for a percentage of the profit. Other than that, necessity is to be assessed and treated proportionally can be used in the field of debt restructuring. Debt restructuring is involved assess and treat financial distress proportionally. This means that they can evaluate the seriousness of the financial difficulty, the debtor's ability to repay, and the impact on all parties involved. Instead of resorting to extreme measures like bankrupt or foreclosure, a fair assessment of the need is made, which is this means allow for balanced restructuring plan that may involve changing repayment terms, extending the repayment period, lowering the interest rates, or forgiving a portion of the debt.
Conclusion, necessity is to be assessed and treated professionally, which emphasizes the importance of evaluating and treating needs professionally. This principle is accepted in Islamic law and applies in various contexts. We found that the principle of proportionality has a legal basis in the Quran and Hadith and is accepted as the main principle in Islamic law. This method requires decision makers to assess the nature and level of need before acting, to ensure that the action taken is commensurate with the severity and urgency of the situation. It is acceptable to break the law in an emergency in order to prevent harm or further the greater good. However, measures that should be reasonable and not go above and beyond what is required. We discovered that there are several techniques used in Islamic law to evaluate and address need in a proportionate manner, including one based on the severity of the damage, the urgency of the situation, or the desire. In conclusion, Islamic law principle, which is necessity is to be assessed and treated proportionally, is crucial because it mandates that decision made in emergency situation be responsible, proportionate, and based on Islamic law. This rule guarantees that within the bounds of Islamic law, the harmony between private and public interests preserved. And that's all. Thank you.